In the grey stone silence of a French convent, a 12-year-old girl stood alone as the heavy gate slammed shut. Her mother was dead. Her father had walked away without looking back. Behind those walls stretched 6 years of black dresses, white corridors, and a future that seemed already buried. No one could have imagined that this abandoned child would one day dictate how millions of women dressed, move, and carry themselves through the world. Her name was Gabrielle Chanel. History would remember her as Coco. This is the story of how a needle, a pair of scissors, and an iron will rewrote the rules of elegance and freedom. France in the late 19th century was a place of stark contrasts. In the countryside around Saumur, where Gabrielle was born on August 19, 1883, poverty clung like morning mist. Her mother scrubbed laundry for strangers until illness claimed her at 31. Her father, a traveling peddler, drifted between market towns and cold rented rooms. When tragedy struck, he scattered his children like seeds in the wind. The boys went to farms. The girls, Gabrielle and her sisters, entered the orphanage at the convent of Aubazine. The convent rose stern and imposing amid green hills. Stone floors echoed with disciplined footsteps. Days blurred into prayer, study, and endless sewing. The uniform was severe, plain black dresses against white walls. Yet in that austere world, something stirred in the young Gabrielle. She watched the clean lines, the absence of useless ornament, the quiet discipline of cloth and thread. These early impressions would later surface in her designs, not as memory alone, but as the very DNA of a new aesthetic. At 18, Gabrielle stepped through the convent gates into a world that offered poor young women almost no path forward. She found work as a seamstress by day. By night, she sang in smoky cafes frequented by soldiers, her voice modest but her presence electric. One song in particular, about a girl named Coco, earned her the nickname that replaced her given name. Gabrielle faded, Coco emerged, sharp, magnetic, unwilling to be invisible. France at the dawn of the 20th century confined women within narrow boundaries. University was largely closed to them. Business ownership required male permission. Yet Coco carried the convent's lessons like hidden armor, simplicity, utility, and an instinctive hatred of anything that restricted movement or breath. She began altering borrowed clothes, favoring clean shirts and practical cuts that shocked the fashionable elite. In the grand country estate of textile heir Etienne Balsan, she observed the gilded cage of high society, women laced into tortuous corsets, weighed down by feathers and dragging skirts. Something inside her rebelled. Among Balsan's circle, Coco met Arthur Capel, known to all as Boy. A self-made English businessman, he saw beyond her charm to the restless intelligence beneath. When she spoke of opening her own shop, he listened. In 1910, with his financial support, she opened a modest millinery store at 21 Rue Cambon in Paris, the same address where the House of Chanel endures today. Her hats were revolutionary in their restraint, elegant, unburdened by the extravagant plumage then in vogue. Wealthy women who once mocked her simple style began quietly inquiring where they could find such pieces. But hats were merely the beginning. In 1913, she expanded to Deauville, a resort town for the elite, introducing comfortable, practical garments that allowed real movement. The stage was set for a far greater transformation. Then the world itself changed. In 1914, World War I erupted. Millions of men marched to the front. Women stepped into their places, driving ambulances, working factories, tending the wounded. The old fashion, designed for display rather than life, became impossible. Corsets and floor-length skirts had no place on wartime streets. Coco seized the moment. She turned to jersey, a humble, stretchy knit previously used mostly for men's undergarments. Designers of the era considered it beneath them. Chanel saw its potential, soft, resilient, moving with the body instead of against it. She crafted loose dresses, simple jackets, and skirts that granted freedom of stride. Luxury must be comfortable, she declared, otherwise it is not luxury. Her designs spoke a new language, a woman was not an ornament to be admired but a person who worked, walked, and breathed deeply. As the war raged, Chanel's star rose. By war's end, she had repaid every franc Boy Capel lent her and stood as a self-made success. Yet in December 1919, tragedy struck. Boy died in a car accident. The man who had believed in her vision was gone. Devastated, Chanel reportedly draped her private spaces in black, the color of the orphanage and of mourning. Grief could have broken her. Instead, she channeled it into creation. In 1921, she collaborated with perfumer Ernest Bose. Among numbered samples, she chose the fifth. She named it simply Chanel No. 5, rejecting flowery romantic titles for stark elegance. The bottle was a clean square of glass. The fragrance became legendary. Years later, Marilyn Monroe would famously say she wore only a few drops of Chanel No. 5 to bed, cementing its mythic status. In 1926, Chanel unveiled what would become an icon, the little black dress. Simple, versatile, devoid of frills. Black, long associated with funerals and servants, now symbolized modern sophistication. An American magazine likened it to the Ford automobile, democratic, brilliant, and essential. She cropped her hair short, mixed real jewels with costume pieces, and embraced sun-bronzed skin after a sailing trip. Whatever she embraced, society soon followed. By the 1930s, she employed thousands, dressed stars and royalty, and reigned over French fashion. Yet success could not shield her from history's darker currents. When World War II began in 1939, Chanel closed her fashion house. During the Nazi occupation of Paris, she resided at the Ritz Hotel amid German officers and entered a relationship with one. The exact extent of her involvement remains debated by historians, but the association stained her reputation. After liberation, she faced questioning and chose exile in Switzerland for nearly a decade. Public opinion in France turned cold. Many believed the orphan who had conquered Paris was finished. In 1954, at 71, Chanel defied expectation. She reopened her salon on Rue Cambon. Parisian critics dismissed the collection as outdated, the work of a relic. But across the Atlantic, American women embraced her vision. Her tweed suits, soft jackets paired with skirts, offered elegance without constriction. In 1955 came the quilted handbag with its iconic chain strap, designed so a woman could keep her hands free. Freedom remained her constant theme. Coco Chanel worked until her final days. On January 10, 1971, after preparing her spring collection, she died quietly at the Ritz at age 87. The empire she built now spans billions. She alone among fashion designers ranks among the most influential figures of the 20th century. From the convent gate that closed on a heartbroken child to the global symbol of liberated elegance, Gabrielle Chanel transformed personal pain into a philosophy. Style is not about wealth or birth, but about how one chooses to live. She took the black and white of abandonment and made them the colors of modernity. She proved that circumstances may close gates, but determined hands can always cut new patterns. What remains when fashion fades is the courage to reimagine the possible. In every woman who moves freely in her clothes, who chooses comfort alongside beauty, echoes the quiet determination of a girl who once held a needle in the cold light of Aubusine. Coco Chanel did not wait for the world to dress her in possibility. She stitched her own future, and in doing so, offered the same freedom to millions. What part of Chanel's journey resonates most with you, the quiet defiance of the convent years, the bold reinvention after loss, or the triumphant return against all odds? Share your thoughts below, and keep exploring the stories that shaped our world.